Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon to all our 12 Monarchs out there in Monarch Nation on what is a very exciting day. As you said, I felt like I needed my fishing pole there with sharks and everything. The fish are definitely bigger. You're right about that. And the sharks are bigger, Ted. Great point by you. But what an exciting day. This doesn't complete, but certainly brings us closer to the completion of the 2015 class with the 9 we signed at the mid-year, and then the 16 that signed scholarships today. Brings our total to 25 for this class. And what I really like about this class is the job the staff did identifying the needs by position. As we continue to grow and develop in the FBS level, we need to fill needs at every position on both sides of the ball, and I feel like we did that. We signed 14 players, counting the mid-year and today, 14 players on defense, 11 on offense. Defensively, that's 5 defensive backs, 5 linebackers, and 4 defensive linemen, so very good balance there. And then on offense, 3 offensive linemen, 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, which we will start considering playing with a tight end, Ted, and a quarterback. So that's the 25 by position that are in this class. And as I mentioned, we're not done. We'll continue to recruit. Ted made the analogy about the sharks in the water. What happens, particularly at the FBS level, is you find as you get closer to signing day, some things happen, which happened in the last 48 hours for us, not unexpected, particularly the caliber of player that we're recruiting at this point. Interestingly enough, Ted, about this class, those 25 players, there were over 50 FBS offers from other schools with these 25. So when you look at the kids, you look at the number of other FBS schools they had to consider. Some of them had Power 5 conference offers, and they still stuck with us. When you look at players like Miles Fox and Jamez Brickhouse that had very good scholarship offers from Power 5 conference schools, and they stuck with Old Dominion. That speaks a lot to our school and the people that are here. So really excited about those 25. 8 are from Virginia. 4 are local players from right here in the 757, and we certainly put in a lot of work, as Ted mentioned, but we had a lot of help from people on campus, from our president, John Broderick, athletic director, Wood Seelig, all the staff, the administrative staff. We had a luncheon here earlier today at noontime to thank all those people, and there were close to 100 people that were here, people from the community that are involved. Can't say enough about the 12th Monarchs, the sellouts, having 41 consecutive sellouts, how much that contributes to helping in the process. So we're certainly grateful to all the people that helped us through this. To give you an update currently on where we are with our team, we currently have 91 student athletes on our team that are working out now. That's the biggest number we've ever had with this move to FBS and the fact that we graduated so few in the class last year. 91 players are working out right now. They're in the 4th week of their strength and conditioning program. By adding the 16 today, that'll bring our total currently to 107 student athletes, and we'll look to continue to recruit, as I mentioned. We'll also look to find the best preferred walk-ons that we can to bring into this class, and we had some outstanding walk-ons that joined us last year. One in particular that I'll mention, Brandon Simmons, who played at Ocean Lakes High School this time last year. He went through signing day, didn't have a scholarship offer, and we were actively recruiting him throughout the process. We made a point to tell him that we wanted him to be part of our team. He played as a true freshman this past year, and I think he's going to have a significant role in our offense, not only at running back, but on special teams. So I mention that to you because it's absolutely critical as you continue to build your roster. It's not just the 85 scholarship players. Most FBS programs have close to 120 players on their team. So if you do the math, that's another 35 that are non-scholarship players like Brandon Simmons, who played for us this past year. So we'll continue to work to add to the roster. By NCAA rule, we can have 105 on our team at reporting day, and then once classes start, the roster can expand. So most likely this year our team will be, we were at 110 last year, the first day of classes. We'll probably be closer to 120 players this season. With this class, it's a very dynamic class. The one thing that I'll mention to you that we really focused on in this class is trying to recruit players that played on both sides of the ball. And if you look throughout this class, you'll see players that were outstanding defensive players that also played offense and vice versa. We were trying to get that two-way versatility. And the reason that's so critical, and one of the things we learned this year at the FBS level, is how that affects your special teams. And you need to have players, for example, wide receivers that play defensive back, and they can be on your punt team or your kickoff team, and having players that are defensive backs that were also skilled in the return game, whether it be the punt return game or the kickoff return game. So that was critical, an area we identified. We really targeted the two-way players in high school that were good football players on both sides of the ball, and I feel like we did a good job of identifying that. I feel like when I look back on this class and going through recruiting, what really drew a lot of these kids to Old Dominion, particularly the kids that had the FBS offers, was the success this program has had, being 52-20 in 6 years. The fact that last year we went 6-6, and we made it very clear to all our recruits that was the worst season we'd ever had, and that 6-6 is not acceptable around here. Although a lot of people, and rightfully so, thought that our team did a great job. There were a lot of 2-10, 3-9 predictions, and then we go 6-6, 4-4 in the league, knock off the two best teams in the West in our first year in, and that caught the attention of a lot of our recruits, knowing that was our first year in FBS. They see the campus, they see the area, they see the brand new stadium that's on the horizon, the upgrades to our current facilities. That definitely helped us throughout the recruiting process, and something that I know even moving forward into 2016 and beyond is helping us in the area of recruiting. So overall, a very solid class. I'm pleased overall with the players that we signed today. We'll continue to recruit, and this is still part of the building process that we're going through here at Old Dominion. And I'll take questions.
Coach, other than focusing on the two-way players, is there something besides that really stands out about this class in general?
Yeah, the athleticism, just the overall athleticism. Generally, when you look at the skill position players, you say, okay, those guys are good athletes. But I look at this linebacker group we brought in, the offensive and defensive linemen. We were looking for bigger offensive linemen, taller, leaner guys that could play in our system. I feel like we've found that when you look at someone like Hunter Sosaby, who's 6'7", 270 pounds. He's playing basketball right now, tremendous athleticism. He's a guy who I think has a shot to be like a David Bourne was for us, or DJ Morrell, who's currently with the Buffalo Bills. He's got that body. And Devin Hannon, who committed to us late from Pennsylvania, another guy who's 6'4" and still growing. So we were looking for an athletic group, and I feel like that's what we signed.
Do you sense the caliber of player on Sunday day going up, as obviously you probably do? Can you address the caliber of player that you have?
Yeah, that's a good question. It has changed dramatically, particularly in the last 2 years. I felt a real big impact last year with the caliber of player, and then it followed up again this year. And I keep going back to how many other FBS offers they had. That wasn't the case last year. There weren't a lot of FBS offers in that class. There were a lot of under-recruited players. There were guys like Ray Lowry, who was the Conference USA Offensive Rookie of the Year, was an under-recruited player. Whereas this year, these players were more highly recruited. So there's no question the caliber of the players going up, and it's going to continue to go up. We're already starting on this 2016 class, and I can tell based on who the coaches are showing me on the video that caliber is going to increase again.
Being in this league, have you been able to expand your footprint nationally as far as recruiting areas of the country?
We haven't changed dramatically in the areas. We've got a pretty good sense right now of who we are and the areas we need to recruit. We'll always start with Virginia, but then North Carolina, South Carolina, Maryland, D.C., Pennsylvania, New York. We're down in Georgia a lot more right now. The California junior colleges will always recruit because they've been very good to us, going back to Thomas DeMarco in that first class that we signed. So we've got a pretty good sense of who we are. I've always felt philosophically that you're best if you can be within about a 200 to 300 mile radius, if you can be within a driving distance, because it's a little bit easier on the families. We are still looking at that, the potential to expand to some other areas because of the impact of television right now. The fact that 11 of our 12 games last year were TV games. We feel like all 12 will be this year, and we know from the initial reviews from Conference USA and our TV partners that they like to televise games from SB Ballard Stadium because of the atmosphere, the sellouts, the energy that's in the building. That makes for good TV. So that we'll continue to evaluate that and how that affects being able to potentially expand our footprint in some other areas.
Coach, I know last year we talked about the playoff push and the national television appearances helping out
Right.
with the recruiting. Now you had more games on TV this year, so how does that help even more, getting more exposure each week?
Well, it's critical because particularly when you're recruiting a player who's not local and the families are going to have a hard time getting to the games, the fact that you can talk about television and you can show them the number of games that are on television, that helps from a recruiting standpoint, and I think just importantly it helps with our fan base because this league is so much different than the CAA, and we had 3 teams in Virginia. Now our closest game is in Charlotte. That's a drive for a lot of our fans, and our fans have already proven they'll make the drive into North Carolina. They did it at East Carolina, they did it at North Carolina State. But it's also challenging for your fans, for our 12 Monarchs, the tremendous supporters we have, and knowing that you're going to have television, that makes it as good for your fans as it does for the recruits.
Coach, we were about 8 high schools today, and everybody was talking about what a reward it is, the hard work paying off. That's from their angle. What's signing day like from how you look at it?
It starts out being quite hectic in the morning. You just want to see those faxes come in. You want to see that it's going to happen because they're now with the type of exposure, the media exposure, it changes everything. So many more kids want to put the hat on signing day, and then you've got a number of schools that they don't know if they're going to sign a player. We had an experience with that last year. We didn't have an experience with the hats this year, but we did have the experience with the sudden change. So it's a little bit hectic in the morning, and then when you get them all in, it's very rewarding. It's very rewarding from my standpoint, from the assistant coaches, particularly when you get some calls like I got this morning from Cheryl Fox, who's the mother of Miles Fox, who had a lot of late scholarship offers. He took a visit to Iowa, he had Georgia Tech, Arizona State, he had all these schools coming at him late, and he stuck to his commitment, and his mom called me up to say thank you and to say that the way you and your staff recruited my son, how you treated our family, confirmed to us that Old Dominion was the right place for us to go. And that was probably the most rewarding part of my day today, to have that conversation with a mom who was in essence calling to say thank you, and then also to talk to all of the student athletes, to get that phone call to them, their excitement, the anxiety's over for them. It's just pure joy and excitement, and generally what you find with a lot of the parents is they know their retirement fund just got a lot better when their sons signed those scholarships. So it's a really good feeling for them too.
Coach, how has the game changed recruiting from the FCS level to the FBS level? Obviously the stakes are higher, the student athletes are more qualified, but so is the competition. Take us through that a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good question, Ted. The biggest change now is the calendar and how much the calendar has changed. When we were an FCS program, you're evaluating in September, October, November, and then you start in December to look to see where are they going, which ACC school, what Power 5 conference school are they going to, then who's going to be left. And so your signing day and your scholarship offers, a lot of them don't happen until the season, whereas now for us, we've already got a number of scholarship offers out to class of 2016 players. We'll run 15 camps this summer that'll be on our campus at evaluation days to get those players here and their families. And like last year, at this time last year, we already had 10 scholarships out. By the middle of the summer, we had over 15 players that were already committed, and that number went up to 20 during the season. So what you find is the calendar jumps up about 6 months going from FCS to FBS, and you've got to be on your game. You've got to be on it all summer. You've got to be on it during the season. You got players on visits during the season coming to games. That's the biggest change between FCS and FBS.
So you have some kids that changed their mind at the last second to not come here, did you convince any kids to change their mind the other way, to come here and not go somewhere else?
Not currently as we speak today. That process is still ongoing, and it happens, and it's very disappointing, not only for us, but the people I'm the most disappointed for are the high school head coaches that get put in this situation. In some of our situations that happen, the high school head coach wasn't made aware by the family or by the student athlete. It was a third party that got involved that the coach wasn't aware of, and that's difficult for the head coach. It's really hard on them. It's embarrassing for them to be left out of the process. And one of the things that I'll say right now that I think is going to change all of this dramatically is when I was at our coaches convention in January out in Louisville, we met all the FBS head coaches. We met with Grant Teff, who's our president of the American Football Coaches Association, and Tommy Tuberville, who's at Cincinnati, is heading up our committee this year. And we all voted for an early signing period, and I'm confident that's going to pass this year. And what that'll mean is on the third Wednesday of every December, which this year it'll be December 16th, there'll be a 3-day early signing period, and it's time. We need that. We're the only sport that does not have an early signing period. And what will happen now is, for example, if we've got 20 players committed to us and we get to that early signing period this year, December 16th, and 15 of them sign and 5 don't, we'll know those 5 are still looking, that they weren't serious about that verbal commitment. And now we can go ahead and recruit those positions. You know, let them know, hey, we may still have a scholarship that first Wednesday in February, or we may not. You know, but we're going to go out and actively recruit now because you didn't sign. You gave the verbal commitment, we held the scholarship, you didn't sign it. And that'll change things dramatically, because now for me as a head coach of an FBS program, I know now I've got 6 more weeks that I can go recruit that position. So instead of finding out 48 hours before or this morning with one of our recruited student athletes, now I know I've got 6 weeks to go out and continue to recruit. That'll be a drastic change for everybody, and I think it's mostly going to benefit the high school coaches who have to deal with this process the entire time. You know, I'm one head coach of a program. High school coaches have got 15, 20, 30 coaches sometimes coming into their school to recruit the high-profile players. Well, now for a lot of those high school coaches, that'll be done in the middle of December, and we'll know from that point on whether or not that student athlete was serious about that verbal commitment with that early signing period. Is that what you were going to ask, Eric?
That was my question. Any other questions for Coach?
Well, thank you all for coming on this very exciting day, and thank you to the 12 Monarchs. Keep doing what you're doing. We'll look forward to seeing you all on April 11th at our spring game at SB Ballard Stadium.